Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. I'm so excited because we're getting ready to celebrate National Picnic Day, and I've got some amazing recipes that'll be perfect for your next picnic. So we're going to start with an Italian pasta salad. Believe it or not, the children in our cooking camp and my grandchildren actually love this recipe. I can't wait to share it. Then we're going to do a chicken Caesar wrap, and it actually has a cheddar dressing, and you're going to find out more about that during the show. And then finally, you know how I always put twist on recipes? I'm going to put a twist on a recipe from my first cookbook that I think you're going to really enjoy. So we've got a lot to do today to get ready for this picnic. Let's get started on that Italian pasta salad. All right, so we are really having a lot of fun at VeryVera right now because in the middle of doing all the things that we do to be ready for the show, we're also in the middle of writing our third cookbook, the children's cookbook. And this recipe will be in the book, and it is the Italian pasta salad. And believe it or not, the kids love this recipe. And just look at the veggies and stuff that are in it. So this is a really great recipe to make with between a 6 and an 8-year-old. It's just amazing. So we started with boiling water in our Dutch oven on top of the stove. And once it comes to a boil, you're gonna add in your salt and your olive oil, and that just gives a little bit more flavor. And this is a tri-colored rotini. It has a tomato, a spinach, and just a regular flavor. So those are cooked. Once they're cooked, you're going to put them in a colander in the sink and run cold water over it because that stops the cooking process. And just remember, when you're reading directions on a package, a lot of times it'll give you a range, like 7 to 10 minutes. For this particular recipe, since we're using it in a cold salad, you do want to make sure that the rotini is done, as opposed to maybe if you were mixing cheese and marinara and baking it, you could give it a few extra minutes and it could be al dente. So I love the way that's turned out. All right, the next thing we did was wash all of our vegetables with Veggie Wash. So this is an amazing product. You've seen me talk about it before, but it gets the wax off of things like the English cucumber or an apple, and then the cherry tomatoes too. You know, they're in a package and you just think, well, they're just clean as a whistle. And then you use the Veggie Wash and you see that there was a little bit of residue left behind. So on the cucumber, I peeled it. And when you're working with a cucumber that's as long as this one, I like to cut it in half. Just makes it easier to peel, especially if you're working with a young person. And then you're going to cut it in half and then in half again. So you're basically getting 4 strips. And then you cut each of those into about a 1/4 inch piece. So you've got a nice bite-sized cucumber. Then on the tomatoes, they come in all different sizes. So this one is large and one is kind of small. So if you've got a large one, I like to cut it into 4ths. And if it's not quite as large, I'm just going to cut it in half. And those are just beautiful. All right, so now I'm going to add in my vegetables to the bowl. The cucumbers. You know, it's amazing to me, my grandchildren love a cucumber, like as a snack. So I'm going to mix this together. And then the next ingredient, and again, remember, this is a children's cookbook, so if you're making this for an adult salad for a picnic and you wanted to make your own Italian dressing, feel free to do so. But when we're working with something that a child can make and be proud of and wonderful, there's nothing like wishbone Italian salad dressing. And do you know that this company has been around since 1948 and very little has changed about the packaging? I think it actually originally came in a bottle. But you certainly want to make sure that you shake it up really well. And this is the tip that I'm going to give you about this sort of thing. It's kind of like potato salad. You're going to add your mayonnaise to it, and then by the time it's ready to be served, the mayonnaise has completely soaked into the potato. So you want to use this sparingly at first and give it a little bit of time to soak in. You're going to want to maybe make this at least 2 hours in advance, but a lot of times you make this the day before and put it in the refrigerator, and you're going to probably want to add the next day a little bit more of the dressing. All right, the last ingredient is ham. And you can buy this already chopped up in the deli part of your grocery store. Fresh Market has it as well. This is diced. You can also get chopped, so it depends on how large of pieces of the protein you want in the salad. So I'm just going to continue to mix this. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper, and I'm going to keep this dressing handy so that I can add some more when we get ready to serve it. And when we come back from the break, we're going to get started on the chicken Caesar wrap, my favorite sandwich. Come back with us. Welcome back, everybody, and if you're just joining me, we are getting ready to celebrate National Picnic Day. So we've already gotten our Italian pasta salad together, and as I said earlier, these are recipes that are going to be in our next cookbook, the trilogy, the third cookbook being the children's cookbook. So I think a 6 to 8 year old would absolutely love to serve that salad for a special occasion. All right, so this recipe is actually from our cafe that we ran on Washington Road in our building for many, many years. And this wrap was one of the all-time favorites in the cafe. This too will be in the next cookbook. So we've got a little bit that we're going to do to make this dressing. So this is called, as I teased earlier, this is a cheater Caesar dressing. And why am I calling it cheater? Because an actual Caesar dressing uses an emulsion of oil and vinegar, but it also uses anchovy paste. So it's one of those things where you might not even know it had anchovy paste in it unless somebody told you. But this being cheater makes it a little bit easier for a young person to do. So instead of oil and vinegar, we're going to use mayonnaise. So I've got my Hellmann's mayonnaise in the bowl. I'm going to add in my freshly, finely grated Parmesan cheese. Then freshly squeezed lemon juice. A little bit of Worcestershire sauce. And you know, our recipes are always available on our website at VeryVera.com. Dijon mustard. See, I'm giving you a intro to the next book with these recipes being published. All right, and then some freshly ground pepper. And I'm just going to whisk this together. And this will actually last in the refrigerator for quite a while. So even if you're only making 4 of the shells to do this with, make some extra dressing, because number 1, you're going to want to use it as a dipping sauce, and number 2, you might want to just make a salad real quick one day and you already have a dressing to use. All right, so I'll move this over to the side. All right, so we're going to start putting this together, and this is really easy, especially when the Fresh Market always has those rotisserie chickens. So the recipe calls for rotisserie chicken, and you just go pick one up and cut it into cubes. You could shred it any way you want to do it, but that's just wonderful. So now I'm going to add my dressing, and I'm probably going to use about 2 tablespoons. But what you're trying to do here is just make sure you've got plenty going all the way to the side. And I'm just going to use my handy spatula. You want to go all the way to the edges with this. You know, these are, one of the things that we're trying to do with this cookbook is teach technique as well as anything else. Certainly we want all the recipes to be successful, and we are heavy into testing mode on those right now. But learning all the different things about chopping and dicing and shredding is part of it. All right, so I'm going to start with lettuce, and we've cut this into thin strips. And I'm going to go this way with it. And I've done enough here for 4. You don't want to overfill it because then it'll be hard to roll up. Okay, the chicken goes next. And I like the combination of the dark and white meat, but if you wanted to only have white meat, of course you would just cook the chicken breast. All right, and a little bit coarser ground Parmesan. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it. And I'm folding it from right to left, and then I'm going all the way to the front and folding it again. All right, so you've got a nice fold on it, and then to serve it, you're going to cut it on the diagonal. And in terms of how that looks and how that could be on the plate, you could use a little toothpick or something, but that little point is going to be perfect for having some of this as a dipping sauce. So in our picnic presentation in just a few minutes, I'm also going to show you another way to transport it so that you can have everybody just pick one up that's already wrapped up in plastic. So that works really well too. So I'm going to get another one going so I can show you that during the presentation. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to walk away from the children's cookbook for a minute and go back to cookbook number 1, top 5 recipe for Hello Dolly. And I'm going to add a secret ingredient. You know how I always put a twist on things, so we'll get started on that in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody, and we have made 2 recipes so far for National Picnic Day, both of which will be in the next cookbook for the children, but adults are going to love to cook out of it too. All right, so this recipe is probably in the top 5 from recipes from my table. It's the Hello Dolly. It's one of the bars that we sold in our cafe. We also shipped them. It was very popular. But you know how I love to put a twist on things. And since that time, I've met a company that I thought I'm going to highlight them in this recipe. So let's get started on all of this. So the butter, I'm also paying tribute to my friends at Sub-Zero Wolf and Cove, because probably one of my favorite appliances in this kitchen is my under-counter microwave. And maybe it's because I'm so short and I have to reach up high to get into a microwave, and it always worries me that I'm going to drop something. But you know, you just press a button and the door opens. You put the butter in, you hit the melt feature. You hit 1 and it tells you butter. You hit 2, it tells you chocolate. And then it knows exactly how long to run it to get the butter to look exactly like it looks right now. All right, so I'm going to add this now to my graham cracker crumbs. And this is the crust for these Hello Dollies. So another piece of equipment, in fact, I've got several of them right here. This is my OXO spatula that I use for everything. People ask me all the time about it. And then the pan that we're using is the pan that we recommend in the book for all of our bars, whether it's a lemon bar, a brownie, the Hello Dolly. This is the perfect size. The recipe is adapted so that you use this pan to do it. So once I've gotten this mixed together, now I'm just going to put it all in the center, and I've already pre-prepared the pan with baking spray. And you're just pressing this in. And when you bake it, you know, it firms together really well. So it takes just a few minutes to do this, but you want to spread it all the way out and then start pressing it little by little into the pan. All right, so I've got that evenly spread now and pressed down with my spatula. Now look at all these yummy ingredients that I ran into the fresh market and picked up. So we're going to start with shredded coconut. And actually, sometimes people will say, do you have to use coconut? Well, of course, my answer is going to be yes, because I love coconut. But you could leave this off if somebody doesn't like the coconut. So you're just basically spreading this on top. Some people call these 7-layer bars, but we've always called them Hello Dollies, which I think is a kind of cute name for a really fun bar. Butterscotch chips. And that really adds a great taste to this as well. So just, again, you're going to get your hands involved. And like I said, This is also a recipe that you can get your young person involved doing. Chocolate chips, and these are the semi-sweet. So spread those around. All right, so now I've got my secret ingredient. I can't wait to tell you. So Low Country Kettle, and I had them on the show with me a couple of seasons ago. They are the first potato chip company that was produced in the state of South Carolina. It's all natural ingredients. It's Low Country Kettle, and I thought, wouldn't this be a great addition to this recipe because it cuts the sugar. And believe it or not, it stays crispy even after it's baked with all of this other melted chocolate, melted butterscotch. But these guys have this flavor, which is the sea salt, but you'll see in presentation today that they have lots of flavors. And then of course my friends at Pearson Farms Pecan, these are the Elliott pieces. And it's one of those things that when these things are in season, I get them and I load up my freezer because they freeze really well too. All right. I mean, are y'all just starving to death watching me do this? Okay, then my sweetened condensed milk, I'm just going to gradually pour. So I'll keep working on this. This is going to go into a 325-degree oven for about 35 minutes. And you'll see it in presentation. So I wish you were here with me because this kitchen is getting ready to smell really good. All right, so come back with us in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody, and there is nothing like a picnic, especially in the South. And certainly I hope today we've given you some great ideas for recipes that you can take for a picnic, that you can take for a family reunion, you can use for tailgating, lots of things. And you know, the word supper has somehow or another disappeared, and we used to do these sorts of things for supper. So these are great ideas for quick and easy. Get those young people in the kitchen with you. I certainly hope that you will go to our website and try some of these recipes at VeryVera.com. All right, so let's go back through what we did today. We started with the Italian pasta salad. And doesn't it look beautiful in this speckled enamelware bowl? We've got the leaf lettuce all the way around it. You put the cheese on at the very last minute right before you serve it. And remember that tip about adding a little extra dressing if the pasta has absorbed all the dressing that you put on when you made it. One other tip that I would like to suggest, this is a oil and vinegar based dressing, but many times you're going to use something that might have some mayonnaise and you're at a picnic. So you can do a bowl like this and sit it inside of a little bit larger bowl with a frozen gel pack under it. You can camouflage it with a tea towel or something. But even on a pasta salad, I really love it to be cold. So that's just a great idea to do when you're determining your presentation for the picnic. All right, the next dish that we made was the chicken Caesar wrap. So as you can see, we've cut it on the diagonal. We put the little toothpick, it's on the board. We've got little extra containers of the dressing for folks to use as a dipping sauce. And that too just really holds up well as compared to a sandwich. It's not going to get soggy. It holds up beautifully. But I mentioned when we were making those that there's another way that you can do it as well. You can do it and not cut it, have it already wrapped up, and you can purchase these bags that seal on Amazon or Uline. So that's just a great way. And then you can stack them up, and people could actually, if you were at a game, they could take it with them as they're walking to the stadium. Love that idea. And then finally, the Hello Dollies with the Low Country Kettle chip included in it. And they showed up so beautifully too. And like I said, they don't wilt, they didn't get soggy. It's going to give you a little bit of a salty crunch. So if you're one of my Hello Dolly fans out there, I certainly want you to try that. That's the size that we cut it in our cafe to sell it, but you can cut that into 4, so it really makes quite a bit. So there's a lot going on here. Lots of things that we went to our friends at the Fresh Market to help us with. So certainly a cheese board with honey and some jams is great. Every bit of that was picked up at the Fresh Market. The flowers, you can just grab a bouquet, maybe stick it in something real quick when you get there. We've got lots of things like the Georgia peach soda. Then the mineral waters are great. Pearson Farms pecans is a great snack. And then the croissants we picked up at the Fresh Market as well. You can do some different jams. And I love this vintage cover that you put when you're doing something like that at a picnic. All of my vintage picnic baskets, you know, really add a lot of flair to this. And, you know, presentation is everything, as I always say. We've got a beautiful quilt that's our backdrop. And so some of the things that you want to think about when you're doing a picnic, you can find on our YouTube channel under Picnic Must-Haves. So I hope you'll check that out because we tell you about the sanitizer, trash bags, all the different things. And speaking of Veggie Wash, they've also created a bug spray called Bite Me Not. So, as I always say on the Very Vera Show, no matter what you do, do it in good taste. I hope you'll come back and join me again next week.